Okay, so we're talking about the Ayurvedic classical texts here, very important. So the question is, where did Ayurveda come from? Is it just random? What is this Ayurveda? What do you know about Ayurveda, Natalia? Natalie, sorry.
Natalia.
Natalia,
Sorry,
Natalia.
yeah.
Yes.
But I don't mind any version.
Okay.
So what I know, not much, but I know that it's very ancient, came from India, that ancient healing system.
Yes.
That it's somehow connected to yoga.
Yeah.
And that it's founded on 3 doshas. That
Okay.
there are 3
It's good.
types of doshas.
Excellent. So Ayurveda. Ayurveda. So it's made of 2 words. Veda means knowledge. So you will hear the word Veda again and again. You will hear Sthapatya Veda, you will hear Yajurveda, Rig Veda. So remember, Veda is knowledge. And Ayur means life. So Ayurveda means knowledge of life. So the written records are thousands of years old, but we actually believe Ayurveda is tens and thousands of years old, because when Ayurveda started, there were no written records. So it went from guru to disciple to guru to disciple. And some classical textbooks of Ayurveda we're talking about, so you'll hear a lot of Sanskrit there. The Brihat Trayi, it means the big 3, the big daddy here. So the big daddy are Charak Samhita, Sushrut Samhita, Ashtanga Hridaya Samhita. So these 3, as you become advanced Ayurvedic practitioner, especially Melanie, you will be expected to quote. So when we ask you what is the definition of health, you should be, say, Sutra 15. So we do expect you to, for advanced students at least. And you never stop studying these books. Even now, I wish somebody would do a proper translation, not a bad translation. You could actually go, sometimes I get patient. I had somebody with chronic cough. I went, you go back and look at them as reference. They're always your reference. Then we have the Laghu Trayi. So these are not as the big daddy books. These are the smaller books. So remember, when these books came out, Charaka, Sushruta, Vagbhat have been written by sages, seers, holy men, spiritual people. So if you look at any old culture, whether you look at the American Indians or in South America, they had shaman. In South America, they have shaman, they have other people. All of these people who are practicing herbal medicine are also spiritual people. So you cannot demarcate and say, say clinical Ayurveda and not. Ayurveda is all about being spiritual and being conscious. If you're not conscious, consciousness is the heart of Ayurveda. For example, let's say, when Natalia had the baby, somebody cooked with love for her, therapeutic food. So that is Ayurveda. When you're cooking with consciousness, that's Ayurveda. When you have an intention, it's all about being conscious. And when you're spiritual, that is so important, where we are coming from. It's all about consciousness. So these books are the big daddy. They pretty much give the 3 doshas. Sushruta is more Dr. Sahana's book, because she's an Ayurvedic surgeon. And we'll have her talk about Ayurvedic surgery. That's so amazing. And Charaka is more internal medicine. So Ayurveda is 8 branches. And Vagbhat is kind of a compilation of everything. Then you have the smaller books, Bhav Prakash, Shringhar Samhita, Madhav Nidan. Now we are moving into the Ayurvedic herbs, how to prepare the herbs, the pulse diagnostics, and so on. These things came later. Now as you move on till in the 18th, 19th century, now when the British invaded India, Ayurveda, so India is kind of like a diamond shape. So all the Ayurveda from the top of India, North India was invaded by the Britishers, moved down to South India. So a lot of people think Ayurveda was from Kerala. It's not. It was Indian. Not just Indian. At that time, India was South Asia as well. So there's the influence of Ayurveda in the South Asian countries as well. So when it moved down, then the Mughal influence, Unani medicine, homeopathy became really big in the north, and Ayurveda kind of remained. And there's also a system called Siddha system. We talk about that a little later. That went down, but nobody was writing about it. They kept on practicing it because British called it witchcraft. But that's the history of the world. Anybody who practices herbal medicine is a witch. They were hanging witches down in the 14th century. So they called it witchcraft and they banned Ayurveda. But people still kept on practicing it in South India. But it really, really evolved beautifully in South India, especially in places like Tamil Nadu and Kerala. There was another system of medicine called the Siddha system, which is a sister of Ayurveda, where they're using some principles of Ayurveda, but it's mostly one medicine. Ayurvedic medicine is all about compilation of different energetics. Very, very powerful. So you have one herb that heats you up, then they'll put another herb that cools you down. One herb strengthens you, one herb dries you. So it's a whole compilation. It's a synergistic compilation of different herbs and food and massage. Basically, let's get you back into balance, whatever it takes. If it takes lifestyle change, if it takes massage, if it takes nutrition, if it takes herbs. And all of this is written in these books. It's all in Sanskrit. Unfortunately, if you want to buy these books, right now the books are available, but it's very Indian colloquial English. And hopefully one day Atul Krishna is going to, because he's a Pandit of Sanskrit, he's doing some translation of Charaka for me. So maybe we'll be able to give a better translation at some point. But these books are the heart and soul of an Ayurvedic practitioner. Then you have other classical texts. I don't know too much about them because I don't have them with me. Maybe you have.
The Kashyap Samhita that basically deals with the pediatrics. It tells all about the pediatric medicine. The Bhel Samhita, it's lost. We don't find it now a part of here, and as she said, during the British invasion, we lost so many knowledgeable texts like Bhel Samhita and Harith Samhita. Those two are not found in integrity. A part of them are found nowadays, so we don't have much information about Bhel Samhita and Harith Samhita. But the Kashyap Samhita is still available, and it mainly deals with the pediatric medicine.
Isn't that amazing? You know, everything from thousands of years ago, they had surgery and internal medicine, and they had rasayana chikitsa, rejuvenation, even fertility issues if you couldn't produce children.
Pediatrics.
Yes, everything. That's amazing. Thousands and thousands of years ago. And in Sushruta, they have drawings of surgical instruments that we used. And some of them have the same principle, only they're made in steel now. It's almost the same principle, and this was thousands of years ago.
Most of them have.
Yeah. So herein, it's a really nice. So you have the kapha. When the kapha is balanced, they love to cook. Anybody? I'm the kapha here. Anyone else? No, not love to cook.
Well, a little bit. Pitta.
Yeah, pitta. And then pitta is your doctor, and look at the forehead of a pitta person. Very, very intelligent, and they'll be doctors, lawyers, software engineers. Atul Krishna, you met Henry, he's very, very pitta. And his IQ is something 175. He speaks every computer language ever created, and Pandit of Sanskrit, and he knows most of the not just Ayurvedic but Vedic texts by heart. He knows Bhagavad Gita by heart. But that's just the way they're born, some of the pitta people. And then you have the vata, a balanced vata. That's you. You're a little bit of pitta too. I can see red hair. Yeah. So one thing in my last workshop we had a girl, and I said, "What's your name?" She's like, "I'm Megan." I'm like, "Okay, you were a balanced vata." A lot of hand movements, but that's a balanced one for you. They will bring joy. So kapha loves to feed the world, vata loves to save the world, and pitta loves to invent new things for the world. So it really applies if you work in a corporate setting, it really applies. I was in Microsoft and these technical companies for a little while as a counselor and a trainer. And I could always see in a group dynamic, you always have the leader. So I would always say vata will always think of the creative project. The pitta will execute it. You know, he will make the project plan. And the kaphas of the world will actually be doing the project. So it's pretty interesting. Hi Zach, nice to see you. And this we are not concerned with. So let's look at prevention and treatment. well, these are modalities of Ayurveda. So the most important thing about Ayurveda is consciousness. And how do you reduce stress? Because what is the leading cause of disease in the 21st century? It is stress. And it's stress, very simple house. If you knew nothing about Ayurveda, how does disease take place? You can say poor eating habits affect digestion, and not having a good consciousness affects the mind and the stress, and that leads to disease. That's like a very simplistic view, but that's something. Okay. And then we have diet and nutrition. We have, so in Ayurveda, diet plays a very important role. If you were to eat the right diet for your dosha, then you would not be sick. You would not need anything else. Eating a right diet, as the season changes, our body changes. So just recently we had this huge discussion on at our forums about people saying we live in the West Coast. One second. Nicole, can you the other room? इसको ना सफाई करने के लिए बुलाया है, तो वो उस हाँ तो वो बाथरूम में सिंक के नीचे सफाई का सामान पड़ा है. Thank you. Oops. Oh, now you know how we conduct our meetings. Yeah, it's a lot of multitasking between this and the. So diet and nutrition. So most important, look at the way we have given it. When somebody comes to you, forget someone else. Yourself. What is the first thing we need to heal when somebody is sick, irrespective of the disease or sickness? The first thing we will improve, we will reduce the stress. That's the number one. That's why we put in number one. So we will reduce stress by their lifestyle. We can tell them go to bed early or see less TV or whatever. Do some meditation. Whatever helps. Sometimes a person loves to paint. They're too busy to do something they love. So we tell them you need to reduce your stress. So we talk about strategies of reducing stress. And remember, different things, there are different stressors for different people. When I am traveling on a freeway, that's my stressor. So I don't know. For some people, there's a different stressor. The boss at work or their mother-in-law. I don't know. It's a different stress. So we have to talk about everything. And the second thing the second protocol we give people is diet and nutrition. So in Ayurveda we believe let me just stop recording for 1 second. पूरा कमरा सब कुछ ही साफ होना है. वैक्यूम करना है और टेबल साफ करनी है और सब कुछ. Thank you. वो सामान मिल गया उसको? बाथरूम के नीचे. हाँ, वैक्यूम भी वहीं पड़ा है. वो स्पा के साथ पड़ा है. Sorry about that. I know it's rude to switch to Hindi. It's just easier to express yourself in your own language. So the second protocol that we always give is diet. So sometimes a person may come to you who are already taking allopathic medicines. They may be on a blood pressure medication or a blood thinning or insomnia or whatever. And as Ayurvedic practitioners, you cannot tell them stop taking anything. But we have to work with them. So we have to work with whatever they're taking. One thing we can change for them immediately, and that will help them within days, is their diet. And Ayurvedic diet is based on the dosha diet. The diet for kapha, pitta, vata, completely different. And what time of the day they should eat, how much they should eat, what beverages. For example, kapha, if you've looked at your pre-evaluation in the modules that we sent, did you receive a module yet?
I think so. Or just one?
Yeah, we sent you a module, right? Okay. So if you look at your module, there's a pre-evaluation there that milk and wheat is poison for kapha, but it's wonderful for pitta and vata. So the diet principles, that's something you can change for a person immediately. And then the third thing that we give them, so it's not a minor problem, it's a big problem. then we give them herbal preparation. So today we'll talk about a couple of herbs. We'll talk about ashwagandha, which is excellent pretty much for stress reduction, but it's also great for vata, it's great for pitta, it's great for fibromyalgia. It has been clinically known to reduce cortisol and serotonin levels. We'll talk about that whole, what does stress do, in a minute. Then we'll talk about turmeric, ghee, and we'll do some basic herb preparations today. Very, very basic. And the next thing that we give them, even the diseases, you cannot control it. It's so far gone. So now you will need to do purification procedures, panchakarma. So panchakarma, a lot of people think is about actually doing a massage and doing therapies, but that's just portion of panchakarma. Panchakarma means preparing. So panchakarma is two types. Either you are taking something from the body or you're giving something to the body. So we call them shaman, shodhan. So what we're saying is that either we are detoxifying, drying out, taking out ama and toxins from your body and removing it. That is one procedure. And another is, now we have taken the toxins, now your body is a little weak, now we are adding back to it. What are we adding? We are adding herbs that will strengthen you. So, has anybody taken antibiotics? I know I have. Everybody has. We've been sick, we got cold, we got an infection, we took some antibiotics, and then we feel better after 10 days. In Ayurveda, you don't, once you've taken your antibiotics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It is going to affect, first of all, the digestive enzymes. It's going to affect the bacteria in your gut. So you need to take probiotics. Somebody has had pneumonia, for example. So now their lungs are weak. Their respiration is weak. So now we need to strengthen their prana srotas. We need to strengthen their lungs. So we need to give them a diet and herbs and breathing exercises now that even if they are recovered medically, that portion is weak. Do you know where that is weak? So you have to work with it. So then panchakarma, we prepare your body for the detox. If someone comes to you, they're emaciated. I have one patient who is 87 pounds. So when someone's emaciated, you never ever do panchakarma. For them, they need to gain weight. So, and somebody's had a surgery, they need to gain weight. So there's contraindications that we'll talk about when you reach the panchakarma. Then this Vedic vibration and Vedic sound therapy is mantras. So we believe use of mantras and yantras, Vedic sounds, very, very important. It can immediately within minutes change the whole atmosphere as well. Then Vedic exercise. Now yoga is a Vedic exercise. So Ayurveda is all about, one word is Veda, Veda, Vedic. Yoga is a Vedic exercise because what is the aim and objective of yoga? Pitta and Kapha. And specifically, most important aim is to balance the Vata so you can become one, union with yourself, union with your soul, and union with the divine. Same principle, that is also the principle of Ayurveda. So how are we going to use yoga? We're going to use yoga as part of a treatment plan. So we will not send, let's say if you are Pitta, we are not going to send you to hot yoga and if somebody is just, a lady is just recovering from childbirth, then we might ask you to do nothing for 40 or 50 days till you recover, and then we might ask you to do very gentle postnatal exercises, which is yoga. So it's a treatment plan. So Vedic exercises for A, B or C differ. For Kapha people like me, we have what we call mandagani. Our gastric fire is low. So for us, things like vinyasas, fast sun salutations. For Pitta, do it in the evening. What time you exercise is very important. Pitta and Vata Pitta should never exercise in the afternoon because at that time sun is highest. Vata should exercise in the morning, Kapha should exercise in the afternoon. So the time is important, what time we do things. Very, very important. Even what time we give herbs are very important in Ayurveda. Then you have behavioral regimens, daily and seasonal routines to normalize biological rhythms. So we believe every time there's a juxtaposition of season, a season change. So there's a cycle. So Earth, what is Earth doing? It's rotating on its own axis and it's also moving around the sun. And then we have moon which is revolving. Everything is in a cycle. Our bodies are in a cycle. We are born, then we become teenagers, then we are young people, then we become old, and eventually we'll die. It's a cycle. So there's a cycle of seasons going on as well. So every time a cycle happens, so we have a monthly cycle as well as women. Whenever a cycle happens, there's a change, and the same cycle is repeated again and again. Ayurveda says whenever there's a cycle happening, you need to work with the cycle, not against it. So for example, when a woman has periods, in Ayurveda, we'll never ask her to get a massage done, ever. I would never do panchakarma on someone or do any therapies on somebody who's got periods. They need to recover first. And also in Ayurvedic massage, we don't have you lying face down. We always have you face up because that's where your nadis are. It's a completely different modality. Did you get any massages done after your baby was born?
No, not yet.
Yes, we should do something. So also seasonal rhythm. So now this is a Vata season, early fall. We're going from summer to winter and the time in between Vata energy. So at this time, you should not be drinking cold water and taking salads or Vata increasing foods because your body is changing. You should be eating what's seasonal. If it's organic and it's flown from Puerto Rico, no, don't eat it. It has to be seasonal. So your body is in a transition inside. This is why we say do not eat from outside. So there's a Vata transition happening in your bodies right now because the season is Vata. But if you were up in the East Coast, I think already winters arrived there. So there you were in Kapha season.
And Arizona hasn't even hit yet.
It hasn't even hit. So you're still in the Pitta season. So there you go. Then we have environmental health and near environment. I do that a lot using Sthapatya Veda or Vastu. So how many people have seen, at least I do out calls. I just did an out call 2 days ago. The lady, her child is very sick and she's a hoarder. She has so much clutter in her house. You couldn't even see the windows. Everything was cluttered. What will happen when there's clutter around you? Your mind is also going to be cluttered and cloudy. And when your mind is cluttered and cloudy, sickness will come. So clean environment, also the energy of directions. So east and north, for example, are considered very auspicious directions. So we also use this. We will even say, what kind of house do you live in? Where does it face? Do you have an altar or a space for meditation? So all of this we will take into account. And last but not the least, we will even do your horoscope, if that's not enough. So when the Jyotish or Vedic astrology was done, the same people were also astronomers. One of the most famous Vedic astrologer was Aryabhat, who also gave the world zero. So he was a mathematician and an astrologer. So he gave the world zero, so there you go. Vedic astrology works on, so you have, I don't know if you know anything about astrology. Are you into astrology? No?
I'm interested, but I don't know what.
Yeah, so you will get to learn a little bit. So we will take that into account as well. Well, why astrology? Because we believe that you're getting some reaction from your past life. Again, we do believe in that. And to negate the effect of a past life, okay. Thank you.
Is that okay?
That's perfect. Okay, I'm also learning. I've only been doing this 2 years, so. And they keep on making changes to WebEx and they just made new changes and I have to go and... So I had the orientation for the new badge and there were so many changes. I'm like, whoa, what happened? Okay, and then collective health measures. Of course, in a lot of, especially in Western medicine, what are we treating? You have a cold, you go to the doctor. I've had a cold for 7 days now. What will the doctor treat? The symptoms. What is Ayurveda treating? You come to me, all three of you are coming to, let's say, Sahana for a headache. You have a headache, all of you have migraines. So for a Vata, she will give you a laxative. For a Pitta, she will give you do meditation and some herbs or, do not be angry. And for Kapha, she will give you eat cayenne pepper. How is it all of you have headache and migraine issues and she's giving you, or kapha, she might say, you know, you need to clear your nose, so put this oil in your nose. Because the reason the headache is a symptom, the root is different. So in Ayurveda, sometimes we are also treating the symptoms, but we are treating the root cause. And the root cause comes back to two things: digestion and stress, always. So look at this. We'll always first treat consciousness, then diet, then herbs, then physiological purification, then mantras. Yoga is number 6. Number 7 is your daily regimen. Number 8 is Vastu or Sthapatya Veda. Number 9 is Jyotish. And number 10 is other. Now, everybody who comes to you is probably doing some other form of alternative health. So they'll be doing either acupuncture, or they're going to a chiropractor, or they're going to a naturopathic doctor, or they're doing their own thing. Half the time people come to me and they open their bag and say, I am taking bee pollen, I am taking dandelion, I'm taking this. I'm like, okay. And then if they've been to a Chinese practitioner, I'm taking chung chang chin chai. I'm like, okay. So Midori fortunately knows a lot about Chinese medicine, and she has an app on her iPhone. So she will look, oh, this is bitter, so this is good for liver. So she will do her own thing. So I can't learn Chinese medicine at this age. I'm too old. Here we go. So these are a lot of case studies. We will share them with you later, not right now. So herein, I'm going to stop and ask you if you know what your dosha is.
I think I am Pitta Vata.
You're Pitta Vata? You are?
I think I'm Vata, but I also have like Kapha and Pitta imbalances.
Yeah, imbalances can be anything, but you're
Predominantly probably Vata.
predominantly Vata.
At least, I mean, what I've been through my life, it seems like Vata, but recently I had some changes after I delivered the baby. So
Yeah, there'll be some changes.
confusing.
Yeah. So I still have 15 minutes. Let's see what we can talk about. Let's just go and okay. So what I'll go ahead and I'm going to, how did he do that? Oops. All right.
They say that Sarvam Panchamahabhutas, that means the entire universe, including all the inanimate and the animate things living on the universe, including humans, the plants, everything is made up of Panchamahabhutas. So let's see what these Panchamahabhutas are. They are the Akasha, which is known as space or the ether, the Vayu, it's a wind or the air, the Tejas, the fire, the Ak, that's the water, and the Prithvi, that's the earth. So it is important that they are stated in a sequence. They didn't mention the earth in the first place and they didn't mention Akash in the last place. It is evolved in the same sequence because they started from the minute to the gross. So Akasha, the space, is considered to be the minutest form of the Panchamahabhuta. It is soft, subtle and smooth. These are the predominant qualities of the Akasha Mahabhut. Next subtle is the Vat or Vayu. It's the wind or the air. It has properties like cold, moving, dry, light and subtle. The next is the Tejas. It's a fire. It's hot, sharp, light, subtle and dry in nature. Next is the Ap. It's a Jala or the water. It is liquid, cold, soft, sticky and mild. And the last one and the grossest is the earth. It is tough, hard, stable, dense, gross and it's having the form. as we look into the sequence, Akash, it doesn't have a specific shape or a size or anything like that, right? The Vayu, it also doesn't have a specific shape, or you can't see, it doesn't have a form. When it comes to the Tejas, it has a shape, but you can see the fire, but still it doesn't have a proper form, right? Then the Up, it has a volume, it has a weight, but it doesn't have a proper shape. It takes the shape of a vessel or a container or whatever it is held in. But when it comes to the Prithvi, the earth element, it is the one which is having a proper form, volume, weight, everything. So that is why Acharya say it evolves from the minutest form to the gross form, that is from Akash, Vayu, Tejas, Up and Prithvi. It is very important to know the qualities of these Mahabhutas, just because everything in the universe is made up of these Panchamahabhutas, and if you can evaluate which Mahabhuta is predominant in which substance, you can state the qualities of that substance. So, and these Mahabhutas, they are involved in the formation of the 3 doshas also, that we are going to look in the next slides. Yeah, here is the Panchamahabhuta combination of 3 doshas, how these 3 doshas are evolved from the Panchamahabhutas. The first 2 Mahabhutas, the space and the air, they combine to form the Vata. The fire and water together, they forms the Pitta, and the water and the earth, they together forms the Kapha. So now if you combine the qualities of space and air, that becomes the qualities of Vata dosh. If you combine the properties of fire and water, then it becomes the qualities of the Pitta dosh. And if you combine the qualities of water and earth, it becomes the qualities of Kapha. That is why I said the qualities of Panchamahabhutas, that is the basic. If you learn them, you can implement them on each and everything. So, yeah, we'll move on to that.
Here, and I have a question for you. So what Mahabhuta are you? If I am Kapha, then I'm earth and water. So I can say I'm earth element. What element are you?
Fire and air and ether.
Yeah. What element are you in Kaliya?
So it's space and air.
Yes. And what element are you?
I'm mostly space and air.
Mostly space and air.
I press Next comes the functions of Vata, Pitta and Kapha. There are so many functions attributed to each of these doshas, but the main functions are listed in this flow chart. First is the Vata. First is the Vata. As we already studied, the Vata is from Vayu and Akash, and it is responsible for the transportation, or the movement, or the communication. So Vata having a Chala property. Chala is nothing but the movement. Vata is responsible for all kinds of transportation in the body, or movement in the body, or communication in the body. How Vata performs these functions? It performs these functions through srotasas. Srotas is a term for the channels of communication and transport. So, any movement that occurring in the body, suppose you take a bowel movement, you take a respiration, or you take the movements of the hands and the limbs, movements of the eyes, everything, or the minute movements which we can see, like the conduction of impulse through a nerve fiber. That's also, conduction is also type of a movement. So that's what we call neural communication. All those types of movements, either the visible or the microscopic movements, occurring in the body, they are due to the vata, and vata performs these functions through srotases. It is very important to know about this part of the chart, that's through which the dosha performs their function, because suppose we say there is an abnormality in the srotas due to kapha. Kapha, as we know, it is having the form, or as we can say it's some mucus or something like that. So if the kapha dosha becomes increased and if it blocks the srotas, what have to come to our mind is, because of the blockage in the srotas, the vata is getting abnormal, isn't it? So if the srotas is blocked, either maybe due to kapha, or if the srotas is affected by pitta, basically the vata is affected, because the vata functions through the srotases. So next is the pitta, which is a combination of jala and tejas, Agni Mahabhuta. So it is responsible for all types of metabolism, digestion and transformation in the body. So, and the pitta performs these three functions through Agni. So as Dr. Monica was telling, there are different types of Agnis. So not that 4 types, but depending on the situation, we say it as Panchamahabhuta Agni. The Agni refer to the each Panchamahabhuta, Sapta Dhatu Agni, the Agni of each Dhatu, which helps for the transformation of the 7 Dhatus in the body. And the one very important is the Jataragni, that's the digestive fire, which helps to digest, metabolize and transform the consumed food into the nutrients into the body. So there are different types of Agni, and Pitta performs metabolism, digestion and transformation through Agni. So the Agni, it's very, as I said in the Srotas, it is important to know that the Agni is related to Pitta. Pitta performs through Agni, because if the Agni becomes imbalanced or if it becomes abnormal either due to kapha or vata, what we have to think is basically the Pitta is affected. Pitta has become abnormal. Next is the kapha dosha. It's a combination of the Prithvi and Ap, that's a Jala, Mahabhuta, and it is responsible for the structure, cohesion and lubrication in the body. As we already know, it's a gross thing which is having a form, right? So the kapha, it helps to give us the bodily structure. It helps to maintain the cohesiveness in the body, because it is having the properties like sticky or oiliness, like that. So it helps to stick the tissues, or it binds the structures together in the body, and it maintains the cohesiveness of the body. And because being oily, it helps to maintain the lubrication in the body. And kapha performs all these functions through the dhatus. So these are the important functions and the source through which they perform their function. Next is to know about the locations of Vata, Pitta, Kapha in the body. This sutra is taken from Ashtanga Hridaya, again one of the Brihadrayis of Ayurveda, and it says that Te Vyapino Api Hrit Nabhyoho Adho Madhyordva Samshrayaha. Though present all over the body, Vata is found mainly below the umbilicus. Pitta is found mainly between the heart and the umbilicus, and Kapha is found above the heart. It is not the only sites for Vata, Pitta, Kapha. They are found in so many areas or the regions of the body, but the basic region, the body is divided into 3 segments, taking umbilicus as a point, and they say below the umbilicus is the sthana of Vata. In between the umbilicus and the heart is the place for Pitta, and above the heart region, that's the urus, where the lungs are situated. The chest area is considered as a main seat for the Kapha. The other seats of kapha, as I said, they are situated in other parts of the body also. They are listed in the lower portion of the slide, saying that vata, its other sites are urinary bladder, rectum, waist, legs, bones, and colon. Amongst these, the colon is the most important location of the vata. Colon is, as we know, it comes below the level of the umbilicus, the large intestine. For pitta, the sweat, rasa, that's the plasma, lasika, that's the lymphatic system, the rakta, that's the blood of the hemopoietic system, and the small intestine, that's the lower part of the amashay. The small intestines are the seats of pitta, but among that, the intestines are the important locations of pitta. But the majority of the digestion takes place. As we know, the pitta is related to the digestion, it's the agni. Though the process of digestion starts from the mouth, it starts when the food comes in contact with saliva, isn't it? The saliva also has got some enzymes which starts breaking down the food as soon as it enters the mouth. But the major portion of the digestion takes place in the intestine. After it moves from the stomach, combining with the bile forming a chyle, it enters into the intestine, where it goes transformation, where the food gets digested and it becomes separated into the nutrient and the waste. So that small intestine portion is considered as a main seat for the pitta. Whereas the kapha, it's also found in chest, head, neck, joints, the stomach, that's the upper part of the stomach, and the fat tissue. Amongst these, the chest is the most important location of the kapha. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's why you have Yeah, next we'll look at the qualities of vata, pitta, and kapha. As I said, they go very much with the 5 elements, the Panchamahabhutas, from which they are formed. If you trace back and look at the qualities of the Panchamahabhutas, like vata, it is formed by what? Vata is formed by which Mahabhutas?
Space and air.
Yeah, you're right. So if you go back and look into the qualities of space and air, it almost goes with the qualities of the vata. So the vata is ruksha, sheath, laghu, sukshma, chal, vishada, and kar. I'll tell what are the ruksha means dryness. It is the dryness. The sheath is the coldness. The laghu is the lightness, subtlety, minuteness, movement, clarity, non-stickiness, coarseness, brittleness. All these are the qualities of the vata. Among these, all are important, but still, I personally think the chala property of the vata, it's a movement, the property of the ability to move, that property that's called chala, that property of vata is considered to be very, very, very important. Because of that property, vata is considered as more dominant among these 3 doshas. There is a specific verse to state the dominancy of vata. It says that kapha fungo, pitta fungo, fungavoho maladatavaha. The general, I'll tell the general meaning. The pitta and kapha both are considered to be handicapped because they cannot move. But vata is the one which is having the mobility, and it drives the pitta and kapha out of balance. So as we see, the air blows the clouds into different parts and makes the rains to happen in a certain place where it comes in contact with the mountain or any obstacle. Similarly, the vata drives pitta and kapha out of their place, and when it gets blocked in some places, when pitta and kapha gets blocked in some places, it manifests the abnormality. So the Ayurvedic sages, they totally believe that without Vata, Pitta and Kapha, they are considered to be handicapped. They cannot move. So they give prime importance to Vata, and as some of you, Melanie, and you might know, because in most of the abnormalities, we initially consider Vata, isn't it? So we try to balance or bring the Vata to the normalcy, though the other doshas are the predominant or the involved ones. That is because Vata is brought to normalcy, it's easy to control the other factors. So that is only because of the chala property or the ability to move. That's because of the movement of the Vata. Next is the
She's asking which Sanskrit is. What is the Sanskrit for movement?
chala. Chala is the Sanskrit word for movement. Next is the qualities of Pitta. It's slightly oiliness, heat, warmth, sharpness, liquid quality, sourness, movement, flow, and pungency. It has a slight range of movement because, as you know, why Pitta has got a slight range of movement? Yeah, it is because of the water. As we know, the water has a tendency to flow. It has a movement, but it can stay stagnant also sometimes. The water flows only in the rivers, but in the lake, the water is stagnant. So that is why they say it's not always as movable as water, but it has got slight range of mobility or the movement. So as we know, it's Agni, basically the fire. It has got heat, warmth. We know the sharpness, the Agni, it's very sharp, very intense. We cannot touch the fire, isn't it? That's the sharpness coming from the Agni Mahabhuta, the liquid quality again coming from the water, the pungency, the sourness are the tastes related to the Pitta. Next is the Kapha dosha. The properties of Kapha include the heaviness, coldness, coolness, softness, unctuousness, oiliness, sweetness, stability, steadiness, stiffness, and sliminess. So these qualities are taken from Charaka Samhita Sutrasthana. If you can see the reference below, they are taken from the Charaka Samhita.
She says something about unctuousness because that's not a normal.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. So these properties of Kapha, they almost correlated with the stability of the earth, the heaviness, the coldness, the coolness, because it's made up of Prithvi and Jal. Water most of the time in its natural form it's cold, isn't it? The coldness, the coolness, the softness, the unctuousness is something which is slimy, what we say, slippers. That is called as being slippery or being slimy. That is called as a unctuousness. That property you can attribute it to the water or the Jala Mahabhuta of the Kapha dosha. Oiliness, sweetness, stability, being gross, having weight, having a specific weight and a volume, it is stable. That is why we say the person with the Kapha Prakriti, they are very stable. They are having a fatty body, they are having a volume, and it's the stickiness and the sliminess. Pichila, Snigdha, they are the corresponding terms. If you see, Guru is the heaviness. If you start from the bottom, from the top, Guru is the heaviness, Shita is the coldness or the coolness, Mradu is the softness, like that. If you are interested to learn the Sanskrit terms, you can start from the top word and correlate with each corresponding word in the bottom of the
Here comes the technical help. Alrighty. Let's see. I'm going to try to increase this even further because that's a lot of material in one page, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Keep
And
it.
they're very small.
Okay, let's not try to be adventurous with technology. Every time I do some energy work, everything in the room doesn't work. So I made sure no energy work for 2 days.
Here the qualities of Vata, Pitta and Kapha and their significance in physiology. So we are analyzing the same qualities of Vata, Pitta, Kapha what we looked in the previous slide, and we are attributing it to the physiological significance. So Ruksha, that means the dryness or the roughness. Dryness in physiology, what we can see is the dry skin or dry cracking joints, constipation due to dry stool. They all attribute to the dryness. So when excessive moisture is absorbed from the stool or the waste product after digestion, what happens? The stool becomes dry and the person will suffer from constipation. Similarly, the dry skin, when we get exposed to the excessive cold weather or the windy weather, we can easily identify that our skin becomes rough, or in the cold season or the season like this in the fall when the wind will be more, so the skin automatically becomes rough. That is because of the Ruksha property of the Vata. The Shita, coldness or the coolness. Coolness in physiology such as feeling cold, low temperature, low metabolism, etc. So some persons, they are cold intolerant. So their Vata might be in a higher level, or they might be of Vata Prakriti. If they are Vata Prakriti, for slight change in the atmosphere also, they might feel very cold. They are not tolerant to cold, or the body temperature may be sometimes very cool. So me having some qualities of Vata, my hands and feet, most of the time it will be very, 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 very cold. They won't get warm at all. So that's not abnormal. That's the normal physiology for my body constitution. And the low metabolism. One type of Vata, there are 5 subtypes for each Vata, Pitta and Kapha, which you will study later in detail. One subtype of Vata, which is called as Samana Vata, it stays in the core. It stays near the digestive fire, and you know what happens if we blow air into the fire? The fire will become more, the fire will increase, isn't it? So when we put a fire in a fireplace, so if we won't burn it properly, if you blow it, the fire will increase. Similarly, the function of the Samana Vata, one subtype of Vata, is to increase the digestive fire by staying in the core. So the Samana Vata, if it's not working properly, the person might feel the low metabolism. That is what they mean there. Next property is the Laghu or the lightness. Lightness in physiology, it's feeling as lightweight or feeling lightness, etc. Next is the Sukshma property of the Vata. That's a subtlety or minuteness. More subtle and unmanifest functioning of the physiology, such as very less activity, less thinking, weakness of a person. So subtleness, it's the unmanifested activities of the body which is not visible. The subtle is very minute and which is not visible, right? So the subtleness property of the Vata, it means less activity or less thinking or weakness. Next is the important properties, the movement or the Chala property. Movement in physiology includes all activities, excitement, instability, change, irregularities, or some pathological conditions like shaking, tremors, etc. The yeah, I'm on Vishada. When it gets parted, this means hidden.
Let's make it 75%. You can read from there.
Yeah, you can hide this.
I don't think it's working. It will go back to 50%.
Oh.
No, actually, 50 with. Wow. Have to go. Okay.
Next is the Vishada, that's a clarity or non-stickiness. Clarity in physiology, it's feeling of clarity. Now, it can be a mental or a physical clarity. Non-stickiness, or in pathology, it might cause looseness of joints, looseness of tissues, skin, teeth. How this happens? The Vata, when you compare the properties of Vata and Kapha, they are opposite. The Vata is Ruksha, it's dry, whereas the Kapha is oily. The Vata is Vishada, it's non-sticky, whereas the Kapha is sticky. So when the Vata becomes abnormal, when Vata increases, automatically the Kapha will decrease. And as we know, in the joints or in various parts of the body, Kapha is the factor which is binding the structures together, binding the two bones at the joint, etc. So when Vata increases, the Kapha automatically decreases, having opposite property, and when Kapha decreases, the bindness is lost. The joints and other parts of the body, they become loose. Next is the Khara property, that's the coarseness or the brittleness. Brittleness in physiology such as brittle bones, brittle teeth, skin, hair, tendons, etc. They tend to break easily. Next is the properties of Pitta in physiology and their significance in physiology. It's the Sneha property, that's a slight oiliness, slight quality of oiliness in physiology. It's not very dry or not. It maintains the unctuousness or the oiliness on the skin, as Dr. Monica was telling. One type of Pitta, that's called Brajaka Pitta. It is situated in the skin. It helps to maintain the moisture or the oiliness on the skin. That type of, it's not too oily. Some people might have very oily skin, but usually in normal, the slight oiliness is maintained on the skin, or such type of quality is called as slight oiliness. Next is the Ushna, or the heat or the warmth. Heat or warmth in physiology such as raised body temperature, fever, inflammation, hot temper, etc. So the raised temperature can be physiological for some persons. For Pitta Prakriti person, this raised body temperature is not considered as a fever. My husband is there. His hands and feet are all the time burning. I haven't seen him wearing a jacket or long sleeved dress for 4 years. We have been married for 4 years and I haven't seen him wearing that.
Really hot.
And all the time, no matter in December, January or whatever the time of the year, he's not wearing any sweatshirts or jackets or long sleeve shirts because his body will be very warm. So that is his normal constitution. That's the Ushna Guna of the Pitta. Next is the sharpness. Sharpness in the physiology such as sharp pain, sharp digestion, or we can attribute it to the sharp intellect. The person with the Pitta Prakriti, they are having a very high grasping nature, grasping capacity. It's the sharpness of the mind. Sometimes they might experience as a sharp pain. When we consider the disease, if a person says it's a sharp pricking pain in one or the other part of the body, we have to think the Pitta is abnormal in that case. There's the sharpness in the mind and the emotion. That is the mental attribution to the sharpness of Pitta. Next is the liquid quality. Liquid quality in the physiology such as liquefaction of dhatus, suppurations, formation of pus, etc. Sit back. Oh, her husband.
Oh, he's holding it.
Next is the sourness. Sourness or acidity in the body, such as sour irritations, hyperacidity, sour stool, etc. So, some of you might have experienced the sour belching coming through the mouth. Have you ever? Some part of the life, one or the other part of the life, I think everybody will experience that the sour belching, the sour liquid coming
Acidic.
through the acidic liquid coming through the throat. That is attributed to the sour property of the pitta.
You can ask Sonika Ruby. It's 11 o'clock in the evening. Thank you, Sonika, for joining us. We really didn't expect you will, but thank you very much.
Next is the movement or the flow. That's the Sara property of the pitta. It's the flow or dynamism in the physiology, such as increased blood flow, dynamic physical activity, etc. Next is the Katu or the pungency. Pungency in the physiology, such as pungent stool. Instead of saying pungent stool, we can say it sometimes while defecating, we'll see the burning sensation in the anus, isn't it? So that is because of the Katu property of the that's the pungency of the pitta. So irritation or intolerance of pungent spices, pungent irritations, etc. These are attributed to the Katu or the pungent property of the pitta. Then moving on to the Kapha properties, is some Guru, which is said as heaviness. Heaviness in the physiology, such as overweight, feeling heavy, feeling lazy. Next is the Shita, it's the coldness or the coolness. Coolness in physiology, it's feeling such as feeling cold. As I said, the people might be intolerant to cold or low body temperature, cool temper. Next is the softness, that's the Mridu property. Softness in physiology, such as very soft skin, oily, soft tissues, and in general the gentleness and softness in the personality. Next is the sweetness, the Madhura. Sweets in the physiology, such as sweet taste in the mouth, intolerance of sweet food, pleasing physiologically, and physiology and behavior. So intolerance to sweet food, what we say it as a lactose intolerance or something like that, that is called as the intolerance of the sweet food. And sweet taste in the mouth, sometimes I have experienced that. I don't know whether any of you have experienced. Sometimes you feel like your mouth is all coated and loss of taste, that is called as the sweet taste in the mouth. Next is the sthira, the stability or the steadiness. It's the stability or the steadiness in the body, such as well-maintained balance, that's called as the homeostasis, steady habits and inflexibility. The steadiness, it relates to both physical steadiness and the mental stability of a person. Next is the stickiness. Stickiness in the body, such as sticky skin or hair, stickiness in the mouth, constipation due to sticky stool. It's quite obvious. Sometimes when the kapha is increased, the stool will become adherent to the toilet pan. No matter if you flush twice or thrice, it will be sticking into the pan. That is because of the pichila or sticky property of the kapha. In that person, the kapha might be increased, and because of the sticky property of the increased kapha, the stool becomes sticky and it sticks to the pan. So these are the significance of properties of Vata, Pitta, Kapha in physiology and pathology. Okay, next we'll see the effects of balanced Vata, Pitta and Kapha, or we can also consider these as a functions of a balanced or the normal Vata, Pitta, Kapha. These sutras are again taken from Charaka Samhita. The first one explains the effects of balanced Vata, Pitta, Kapha. I'll just read out the sutra. So, Utsaha, Uchvasa, Nishvasa, Chesta, Dhatu, Gatihi, Samaha, Samo, Moksho, Gatimatam, Vayoho, Karmam, Avikarajam. If you take the word from the verse word by word, the glossary is given on the right hand side of the page. That's first one is Utsaha. Here in the Utsa, H and A are missing. You can just add if you have a page. Here you have to add H and A. It's a word for enthusiasm. Utsaha. Utsaha is the enthusiasm. Nishvasa is the expiration through which we blow out the air. Uchvasa is the inhalation through which we inhale or intake the air. This is the chesta. Chesta is all sorts of movement, as I said earlier, either the visible or the microscopic movements in the body. That's called as a chesta. Sama, dhatu gatihi. That's a balanced development of the dhatus or the tissues in the body. Samo moksho gatimatam. That is the balanced release of the malas. So when Vata is maintained in the normal state or when Vata is balanced, it expresses itself in the form of enthusiasm, inhalation, expiration, it's a movement, respiratory movements, and other kinds of movements, the normal metabolic transformation of the tissues and proper elimination of the excreta or the waste products in the body. Next is the effects of balanced pitta in the body. The sutra goes, Darshanam Bhaktihi Ushmacha Kshut Trishna Dehamardavam Prabha Prasado Medacha Pitta Karma Avikarajam. The darshana is referring to the sight or the vision. The bhakti is the digestion, that's a pachana. That's what Dr. Monica was telling, it's a pachaka pitta, it's a one of 5 subtypes of pitta, pachaka. Pachana means the process of digestion. So bhakti is referred to digestion. Ushma, that's the heat. Trisha, that's the feeling of thirst. Kshuda, that's the hunger. Dehamadava, that's the softness of the body, because being slightly unctuous or slightly oily, it maintains the softness of the body. Prabha is the luster. Prasada is the cheerfulness, and Medha is the intellect. So the actions of Pitta in its normal states are good vision, good digestion, normal body temperature, the normal hunger and the thirst, bodily softness, luster, happiness and intelligence. The last two, the happiness and the intelligent, they relate to the Sadhaka Pitta that's situated in the brain, or they attributed to the mental effect of the Pitta, and the other they relate to the physical attribute of the Pitta. Then the effects of balanced Kapha. The sutra says, Sneho bandhaha stiratvam cha gavravam vrashata balam kshama dhritihi alobascha kapha karma avikarajam. The sneha is the unctuousness, or in general we can say it as the oiliness. The bandha is the binding property or the cohesiveness of the kapha. The stiratva is firmness. Gaurava is heaviness. Vrishata is the potency of the person or a body. Bala is the strength. Kshamata is a forbiddance. Dhriti is a restraint and patience. And Aloba is absence of greed. The effects of kapha in a normal state are unctuousness. It maintains the oiliness of the body, maintains the cohesiveness or the integrity of the body, heaviness, virility, the strength, forbearance, the patience and absence of greed. So these three doshas, when they are in normals, they perform all the good things to the body. They helps to maintain the body. But when they become abnormal, when they become either increased or decreased due to any reason, they do all bad things, and these normal functions will go away. And that condition is either called disease or be called as a imbalanced state of the body. Do you have any questions so far? No? Are you doing okay, Natalia?
Yeah.
I think you look blank.
No,
Am I
no.
going too fast or?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Just a look. I guess.
Okay. Next is the effects of imbalanced Vata, Pitta and Kapha. After studying the normal functions or the normal effects, we'll see what are all the abnormal conditions, just the terminologies, and in due course you are going to study all of these in detail. Vata, when it becomes imbalanced, when it becomes abnormal, it causes various conditions like dry or rough skin, insomnia, that's a sleeplessness, constipation, it's a very hard, dry stool, common fatigue, tension headaches, intolerance of cold, degenerative arthritis, underweight, anxiety and worry. As I explained some of them initially, constipation, why it happens because of the drying property of the vata. It absorbs excessive moisture from the stool and it dries out the stool, and person will suffer from the constipation. Why the degenerative arthritis takes place? Again, the ruksha property, that's a drying property of the vata. It dries out the kapha or the oiliness which is situated in the joints. When the kapha dries out in the joints become degenerative. The underweight, as you know, Vishamagni is a type of Agni related to Vata, isn't it? The Agni will be imbalanced. When the Agni is imbalanced due to Vata, what happens? The consumed food is not digested properly. The person might suffer from underweight like that. So these are some of the conditions which might occur due to the imbalanced Vata. Then coming to the Pitta, the conditions which might occur due to imbalance of Pitta include the rashes, inflammatory skin diseases, peptic ulcer, heartburn, irritable bowel syndrome. These are related to the digestive fire or the Pachaka Pitta, what we call. The first two, the rashes, the inflammatory skin disorders, they are related to the Brajaka Pitta, one of the subtype of Pitta which is situated in the skin. Then is the visual problem, as Dr. Monica was telling, the Lochaka, Alochaka Pitta situated in the eyes. When it becomes imbalanced, abnormal, it might cause some visual problems. Excessive body heat, it's the Pitta situated all over the body. When it becomes abnormal, it causes the excessive body heat. The premature graying of the baldness, premature graying or baldness, it's the loss of hair or the graying. Yeah, graying becomes quite obvious in a dark or a black haired people like us. In our country, usually all of us have a black hair, but it turns gray as the age advances. But if the Pitta becomes abnormal, even in a small child, the hair will become gray. That is something abnormal in our country. So it usually happens when the age process occurs, but because of the imbalanced Pitta, the grayness or graying of the hair can occur even in a child or in a lower age. So hostility and irritability. So these are some of the imbalanced or abnormal conditions.
I have a question. The premature graying or the baldness, that being a Pitta imbalance, if someone starts to lose hair and they're a dominant Pitta, if they were to get their Pitta more imbalanced, is it possible to grow that back? Or
I don't think it's possible to grow that back, but you can prevent the further loss. Once it's lost, it is lost from the root, but you cannot bring it back. But in Ayurveda, there are some remedies, that's some preparations, the herbal preparations, which are used to grow back the hair which is already lost. So the baldness is referred as a Khalitya. It's a name of the disease. Khali means becoming empty. Khali is the word meaning of Khali is becoming empty. So in a disease called Khalitya, the hair becomes empty from the scalp or any part of the body. So if the answer to your question is yes or no. So there are some formulations, they call this as Hastidanta Masi. It's a combination of some drugs, and it is applied over the scalp where the hair is fallen, where the baldness has occurred, and we have seen there are some results and the hair started growing in that area. But basically, by bringing back pitta to the normalcy, you can better prevent the further loss of hair and losing the hair totally all over the scalp.
Thank you.
Next is the imbalance of kapha. The conditions which might occur due to the imbalance of kapha might include the oily or the greasy skin, slow digestion, sinus congestion, nasal allergies, asthma, diabetes, obesity, etc. These are just the name of some conditions of the diseases, and as you move into the course in the later periods, you will learn more about these diseases or these conditions. After knowing the doshas, their properties, their situation, where they are situated in the body, etc., here comes the very, very basic principle of treatment. So it says that the Samanya Vishesha Siddhanta. The sutra for this, okay, I'm done with this slide. I think that's the last of it. So this is a very important note down principle for the treatment. The sutra for this principle goes Vraddihi samanaihi sarvesham viparitaihi viparyayaha. That means that it is called as Samanya Vishesha Siddhanta. Samanya is similar, Vishesha is having opposite property. So the principle of similars of the Samanya, it states that any substance or influence acting on the body, example food, herbs, sensory input, when possessed with certain qualities, those will increase the same qualities in the body. It is, in simple, we can say it as plus 2 plus plus equals plus. When we add things having the similar properties, it will increase. When we add opposite qualities to an existing quality, it will decrease. That is called as the Vishesha. It's just like the simple addition and the subtraction. Principle of similar is the principle of addition. So if we provide the body with either food or activities or any other material having the same properties of doshas can be either kapha, vata, pitta, whatever, which is imbalanced. If you provide the body with the substances or the activities which are having the similar qualities, that will increase that quality in the body. On the other hand, if we provide the food or the activity or any substance which is having the opposites, or which is called as Vishesha, any substance or influence acting on the body when possessed of certain qualities will decrease the opposite qualities in the body. You can look at the example. When hot spicy food is given, it increases the hotness or the heat in the body. That means we know the heat is pitta, and thereby it increases the pitta dosha in the body. On the other hand, when hot and spicy food is given, it decreases the coldness. When we feel very cold in the winter season, what we do? We grab a hot chocolate, or we try to eat some spicy hot soup, isn't it? Just because it will decrease the coldness in our body. So it decreases the coldness in our body means it decreases the vata and kapha, because vata is causing the coldness and the kapha being cold, it is causing the coldness. So when we provide the substances having the opposite quality, it will decrease that quality in the body. But when we offer the food or any other form, any other exercise or any other substances which are having the similar quality, it will increase. This is the basic principle of treatment. So if we see the vata, when a person comes to us having some set of symptoms, we'll diagnose the condition and we'll decide which dosha is increased or which dosha is decreased. So if we think that the kapha dosha is increased in that person, which is causing all these symptoms to him, so we have to give the substances which are having opposite qualities of the kapha so that the kapha will decrease. But if the person comes to you having some symptoms, having after analyzing, you decide that if vata is decreased in that person, which is causing that problem, you have to advise the food and the activities which will increase vata, that is adding. I think you got it, or are you confused? Okay, that's a basic principle, and most of the Ayurvedic treatments we follow this sole principle in treating the diseases. I think it's the last of it. You have to see the whole page as a single thing, which is not happening in the computer. If you have your printout, you can see it. It's a whole page. It describes it together. It's a concept of Indian philosophy and the doshas. It's a Rishi, Devata and Chandas, and
No, we don't have
you don't have it.
No.
She might not have printed, and it's not possible to explain. So it just says that the ojas, or the togetherness, ojas is considered as the wholeness or the togetherness of the body. It is the normal physiologically working vata, pitta and kapha. Similarly, the togetherness of the consciousness, of the consciousness is called as samhita, and it is the properly functioning observer, which is called as the rishi. It's the sage, meaning the process of observation, that is called devata, and being observed or being known, or you can say the knower, the process of knowing, and the knowledge. That these three are attributed to the togetherness of the consciousness. So we have to know the things properly to maintain the integrity of the mind, which is also called as samhita, and to maintain the integrity of the body, which is called as ojas. The physiology, to maintain the physiology, we have to maintain the vata, pitta, kapha. To maintain the proper or the togetherness of the consciousness, we have to have a proper flow of the person who knows it, the process of knowing, and the knowledge. When we obtain the knowledge in a proper way, when we absorb it in a proper way, we can maintain the wellness or the togetherness of the mind or the consciousness. So this is a small chart which explains that. Okay, with that brief introduction to the doshas, their sites, their functions, their qualities, and their Panchamahabhuta composition. Here I would like to conclude this presentation. If any of you have any doubts, any questions, you're welcome.
Could you put it back on the top?
Okay.
That part down.
as I was talking about the importance of mind, while I explained the definition of swastha, I said the mind is a very important factor which determines a healthy or unhealthy state. And one more thing which comes with the mind is the prajnaparada. Is that too early for them to introduce to prajnaparada?
Too early.
Okay. Yeah.
Break time. They need something to do.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
So we have 1 hour, 12 minutes of recording for you. I think everybody left. Let me see if this is. Oh, we still have 3 people. So we're going to resume. We're on a break now, and we'll resume in 30 minutes. Okay. All right. Let's feed you guys.